Ishe Stongo.
동고.
Stongo.
Estongo 가야 되겠다.
Agenda. Agenda.
예, 동고로스.
맞지? Ishe Eli Roland change out Jeff Gadon. Jemahaya Hanroy Morjanetta. Gachol Gatrusty Doedon. Going to Amadol with us. So hi everybody, my name is Eli Roland Chang, and I'm the one that's going to be teaching you today on today's Mystery Mvhayv. I am a daughter of the Panther clan, and my tribal tongue is Kawita. So today, my favorite thing is grammar. So I'm teaching grammar for my Mystery Mvhayv class. So we're going to go into sentence building and structure today. So it's a beginning grammar class of how do we start making sentences with the different words that Mvhayv, Oscar, Philip, Stephen, Carolyn, Gracine might be teaching you guys throughout the week. And hey, nice, Christy. So be a little patient with me. It's been about a year since I've done a class on the board here. So if I have a little bit of a wonkiness, just be patient. Okay, so to go ahead and start, I want to talk about Mvskoke sentence order, right? So a quick thing, what is sentence order? It's what determines where words are. Let me go ahead and turn my annotate. There we go.
Mvhayv,
Mm-hmm.
before you go too far, not Abuhidan Zayat.
Yes.
The word wave, when you're talking about, say, for example, the flag is waving, you know how it, okay, all right. Oh, Tad and I were doing something yesterday and we came across that word. And so I was trying to call Gracine to ask her. And so if that could be something you could research for us and find out how you would say wavy, wave.
Wait. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to look for it now, but I mean, you can do it later.
No, I know. I'm making a note for myself.
Oh, okay. Madowan.
바로
Anga. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, no. Like a. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So, going into sentence order. So that determines where words are going to go in a sentence. That means that we're going to talk about words like subject, verb, object, adjective, and all these really scary, fancy words. If you don't know specifically what they mean or how you use them, and you just speak, that's fine. I'm going to talk about what each one is. The reason we need to discuss sentence order is because it's the difference between saying, say, toilet paper versus paper toilet. Sentence order and word order matter. A toilet paper is not the same thing as a paper toilet, right? So we need to know what are the order we use in Mvskoke to correctly discuss our sentences and what we're trying to say. Okay, so let's look at English versus Mvskoke. English, I'm trying to choose a different color that maybe will be easier to see. How's red? Oh, red's good. Okay. So English uses subject, verb, object, shortened to SVO. So I eat bread, right? If we look over here on this side, the subject is who is doing the action. So in this case, that's I, right? The verb is the action that is being done. So that is eat, right? I eat. And then the object is the thing that's affected by that action. So in this case, that'll be the bread. I do the action I do is eat, and the thing that is being eaten is bread, right? So those are all of our pieces. So subject, verb, object. On the other hand, Mvskoke is subject, object, verb, which is called SOV for short. So instead of I eat bread, we say I read eat. I, bread, eat. So we're going to basically take the verb and object and we're going to switch them. Any quick questions on this page before I go on? I'm going to go more into it and stuff, but if there's something you want clarified right now before I move on. Oh, nice, nice. Okay. Machi. Hey, yada. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of practice of this concept, but we're gonna use English to practice it first. I want us to know what we're doing before we start using Mvskoke, which is, not our language that is the comfortable language, let's say, with this class. So for this first one, we're gonna go into Jane hears a cat, right? So this one is our first one. Jane hears a cat. I want everybody to either write it in the chat or write it on a piece of paper for yourself. I want you to try to guess what the order would be in Mvskoke, right? Remembering that Mvskoke, we're going to use S-O-V. How would we put this sentence in a Mvskoke sentence order? Nice, nice. I see them all coming in. Jane, cat, cheers. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Let's see if you're right. Here we go. Jane hears a cat. Jane, a cat, hears. Or if you just put Jane, cat, hears, those are both correct. Nice. And the reasoning, right? I try to color code it to make it kind of easy. So the subject is going to stay in the same spot. Hears is our verb. That's the thing that we're doing, right? And so that's going to go over here versus a cat is the thing we are hearing. And they switch places. So Jane, a cat, hears. This is going to be our sentence order. Nice. Okay, our next one is going to be this one. The deer eats grass. So in the chat or on a piece of paper, what would that sentence order be? The deer eats grass. Your best guesses. Munchy, munchy. Munchy. Heck yeah. Okay. So let's see if y'all are right, which I saw a bunch of right people. Okay, and I think you can see it. I know that when I just changed the thing, it kind of cuts down the bottom a little bit, but it becomes the deer, grass, eats, munchy, right? Our subjects are staying in the same spot. The thing that we're doing is eating, or the deer's doing, eating. So it goes at the end. And then the thing that is being eaten, grass. Munchy. The deer, grass, eats. Okay, our next one. This one is going to be harder. I am relaxing. I am relaxing. How would you put that in the Mvskoke sentence order? I am relaxing. G. Munchy. Okay. Here is what it becomes. And I'm going to kind of go into a little bit of why this happens. So in English, we have I, subject, then am relaxing. Relaxing being the main verb. Am is a helping verb. So they're both a verb in this case. In Mvskoke, this just becomes relaxing with it conjugated in the I form. So relaxing, I am. There's only a verb in this sentence, which is why I did warn it's a bit of a harder one. Yes, Yoda speak. That's a very easy way to think of it. Yoda speak. So relaxing, and then the I am is a part of that verb. Okay, our last one on this page. He is driving a truck. What would the sentence order be? Munchy. Munchy. Okay. Dang, y'all are fast. Perfect. Okay, here we go. So he is driving a truck. He's going to stay in the same spot. And then driving, right, is driving. That's the verb that you're doing. That's the thing you're doing. So it goes at the end. A truck is the thing that you're driving. So it goes before that. Munchy. Munchy. Let me clear off all my little drawings here. And before I go any further and we start working with Mvskoke to practice this, are there any questions about what you're seeing right now? Okay, I'm gonna go with no, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Okay, so let's talk about subjects. So in English, we have to have a subject. I can't just walk into the room and be like, drinking water. That doesn't work in English. In English, we're thinking, who's drinking water? But in a language like Mvskoke, we actually don't need subjects all the time. Our verbs hold a lot of information. So unless we need to be specific, we often drop the subject entirely. So examples would be if the subject is I, you, we, or y'all, the subject is most likely going to drop. If the subject is obvious from context, it's going to drop. So 2 examples would be if I am eating. To eat is hombeda. The way I conjugate that, which will be a different class that I will teach, it'll show who's doing the action. So home base, I'm eating. Home bitches, you're eating. Home bees, we are eating. Home batches, y'all are eating. So it shows it in our verb. So I don't say ani home base. To Mvskoke ears, that sounds repetitive and awkward. So we put it in our verb. For the obvious from context example, say we're both talking and we hear a dog barking really loud. We can just say, which means barking strong, barking loud. I don't need to say ifa in this sentence because we both know it's a dog that we can maybe see while we're talking. I'm just saying, oh, dang, it's loud. So obvious from context, we can drop our subjects. So the example I have here is adokes. Adokes, I work. Mvskoke adokes, I work at Mvskoke Language. We tend to keep the subject, however, in Mvskoke, if the subject is what's called third person, which is he or she or it, they. In those cases, we keep the subject in the sentence. Or if we don't know the context yet, those are the 2 situations in that first one where we will keep it. The next is if we switch to a new subject. So if I'm talking about the dog barking loud, and then all of a sudden I will say that the cat is drinking water, I have to specify we're talking about the cat now. If we were talking about the dog before, because otherwise it would sound like I say that the dog is drinking water. So when we switch context, switch subjects. And then the other time is when we want to emphasize the subject. So this is when you'll see like someone say like undot, adokes, like I am working. So maybe like they're calling you at work or something and you need to go back to work. You're just like, I'm working. Then you could specify the subject. Even though generally we don't have to for the form of I. So down here, the example I have is John adokes, or John works. John adokes. John works. And so John would be a he subject, right? I'm not saying he in this case, but it's a he subject, right? It's not you or me or we or y'all. It's one of the other subject types. So I need to specify John is the one working. John, adoptis. Any questions on this page or anything that made you think of before I move on? Not you. Any questions? About when you drop a subject, why? See it.
Could I summarize or try to repeat back what I think you just said is that if the person or people you're talking to are not the subject, or if you yourself talking are not the subject, then you probably should specify.
Generally, yes. And then the only time the answer would be no is if it was obvious from the context.
Okay.
Yes. So good job.
Maro.
Heck yeah. Machi. That was a good way to summarize it. Okay. So next page then. Let's try this concept then now in Mvskoke. We're going to try the sentence order. I think I'm mostly avoiding the first person, second person, to try to just make sure we're getting the sentence order right. So the first one is going to be the first sentence we had in our practice. The deer eats grass. So I gave you all the pieces in case you don't know deer, eats, and grass. And the chat, try to put it in the right sentence order. So deer is ijo, eats in this case is hombis, and grass is bahi. So in the chat, machi. Okay, does a brave soul want to go ahead and say it out loud for me? Their guess?
Ijo bahi mombe.
Machi. Okay, so let's go ahead and see the answer is Ijo bahin hombis. Ijo bahin hombis. Now you most likely did not have the N on the end right here. That is okay. This is a grammar function that I'm not going into today, but it is fine if you did not have the N. And so to go back, it's because it's right. Deer eat grass, and Mvskoke is S-O-V. So these two switch. So Ijo bahin hombis. Okay, I say, you say, Ijo.
Ijo.
I gotta hear more people unmuted than one. Come on. Ijo.
Ijo
Machi. Bahin.
Bahin.
bahin
Hombis.
Hombis.
Machi. All together. Ijo bahin hombis.
Ijo.
Machi, y'all. Machi. Heck yeah. Okay, our next one then. Jane hears a cat. That was another one we did. Jane. We're going to use the Mvskoke pronunciation of Jane, which is Janey. Janey. Here's is bohida, bohis.
Oh, really?
And cat is borsi. So how will we put this one into Mvskoke?
Janie, how funny. Sorry.
That's okay. It's cute, isn't it? Janey. Janey. Muchy. Okay. So let's see if you were right, because I did see a few different thingies. Ready? This is the answer. Janie. Borzin. Bohish. Muchy. I'm going to draw real quick. So, right, we got our subject, verb, and our object. And it needs to go into this order. Janie, Borzin, Hombish. Now, I saw people using, instead of bohida, people were using mabohejida. That is not correct for this sentence. And that's because mabohejida is to listen. Right? So that's when you're actively doing it, right? To listen. Versus if I say hear, right? If I say listen to me versus hear me, those don't have the same feeling or meaning, right? Mabohejida is to listen. Bohida is to hear. So it should be Janie, Borzin, Bohish. Muchy. Okay, So we're gonna do I say, you say again. So I say, you say, Janie.
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 Matji. Borzin.
Pussy.
Bossy.
Bohis.
Bohis.
Matji. Okay, all together. Janie. Borzin. Bohis.
Janie.
Bohis.
Matji. Matji. Janie. Borzin. Bohis. Matji.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I know you said that you weren't gonna go over it today. I just kind of, I think I have an idea of why, and I just want to make sure that I'm correct. For Boson, and I noticed in the other one for the objects, you put the N at the end of it. Is that because it's not the subject?
Yes. So in a later class, I'll go over how we use T and we use N to show subject and objects. So this N is helping show this is, yes, specifically a subject. Which in this type of sentence isn't as important compared to, say, if it goes in sieges.
Mvhayv, I have a question. Yeah.
1 second. That'd be the dog chases the cat. If I can keep the same sentence order. If I don't have N or T in there, you don't know which one's chasing who. So this is, yeah, this helps make it more specific that it is a
Right.
thingy. Okay, and so the next question, what was your question?
It's that way in Latin too. I was going to say there's different endings for subject and object. I was going to ask in proper names, would it be appropriate to put say Chenit, Janie, the T on the end of a proper name?
No, and that's because this T is used in very specific circumstances, which is why I didn't want to cover it today.
Okay.
It's only used in certain circumstances. So a proper name basically would be a situation where there's no need for it.
Okay. What else?
But I love getting to talk about it. So I will definitely make sure I get to talk about it at some point. It's also why if you look at my sentences, I'm very deliberate on when I use the and because this T and N have a big role in showing the versus and stuff like that. So, you know, if you kind of look at this as we go on, you'll kind of see that. Okay. Oh, I didn't register that. There we go. Okay. The next one is the man runs. So what would be the sentence order for this one in the chat? The man runs. Man is onanwa and runs is likis. Machi. Okay, let's see if y'all were right. Ready? The answer is honanwa likis. Honanwa likis. So let's kind of look at that real quick. So we have only a subject and a verb. So sentence order is basically going to be like English, right? Because if it's S-O-V, we just don't have an O. So subject and verb. The man runs. Now, I saw someone use that T I was talking about. The reason the T is not in this sentence is because onan what with the T is no longer the man. That's why I was saying I'm very specific in my lesson today, whether I'm using the or a. So without the T, it is the man. So onanwa likis. The man runs. Onanwa likis. Okay, so let's do those two pieces. So I say, you say, or if you remember from Mvhayv Carolyn's class, maybe a week ago-ish, or earlier last week, it was magayo, Jimmy magas, right? So magayo, Jimmy magas, honanwa.
Onanwa.
One more time, honanwa. Matji, likis.
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 Litkis.
Yes.
Machi. All together. Punanwa likis.
Onanwa.
Ma Likas.
Heck yeah, machi. Okay, and I think we have one more of this. Oh no, we're going to these. Okay. I pulled sentences that you've had from other teachers during the Mystery Mvhayv sections. And I want to show you how you can see this sentence pattern in these sentences that you've learned. So does anybody remember what abuhka ojes means? You can say it out loud.
I have a question.
I have a question, Mutji. So if we know that Mvskoke is subject, object, verb, we know that the verb is last. What is abuhka probably mean?
Question.
Question, Mutji. Question. Because you remember I mentioned with the subjects, when the subject is I, you, we, it's inside the verb. So then what does this mean? Ojes. Mutji, I have. Mutji, I have. Yes, T is not the when it's items that don't use a verb base. Once again, it gets a little interesting. When I get to that part, we'll see it. We'll see it. Okay, but yes, question I have, subject, object, verb. Mutji. So I actually have them here, so you can see object and verb. Abuhka, ojes. So let's go over those two words separately first, and then we'll all do it together. So magayof, jimiyu magaks. Abuhka.
Apoka.
Boka.
And remember, someone had this question last time. This H is pronounced. It is not a glottal stop. It is pronounced. Abuhka.
Aboka.
Abuhka.
Mutji. Ojes.
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 All together. Abuhka ojes.
Aboka.
Ojes.
Mutji. Okay, let's look at another one. This one you also learned earlier, these lessons. What does it mean before I say it?
Yunakite.
That
What
thing, what? Or that thing in question.
Mutji, what is this? What is this? So once again, subject, object, verb. What is this? So what is ya? Best guess, what is ya?
This.
Hey, yeah.
Mutji, ya or hiya. This. What is nagi?
What?
Right?
What thing that not that.
What thing? Yes, what? And then what is D?
Question. What is it?
It specifically is question mark. The whole package is question mark. This what is? Yanagi. This what is? What G? So let me clear up all my little drawings and you can actually see it all nice and clean. Yanagi D. What is this? So magayo, jimiyu magaks, ya,
Ya.
Yeah.
machi hadam, ya,
Ya.
Yeah.
Agi.
nagi,
Nagi.
hadam, nagi,
Nagi.
Nagi.
D,
D.
D.
machi. All together, yanagi D,
Nagi. D.
hadam, yanagi D,
Yanagi.
Nagi. D.
Yanagi.
machi, yanagi D, machi. Okay. This one was one that you had with, I believe it was Mvhayv Carolyn. What does this one mean?
My name is.
My name is Mutji. So my name is Eli, right? So our subject, our object, and our verb. In that case, what most likely is Jahojivka?
name,
Nice. My name. Ja, in this case, is mine. It's a specific type of possessive. And then Hojivka, name. And then what is dos?
is,
Is.
What
Is.
is, period. Specifically, the statement version, right? Period. And then what goes here?
your literal name,
Yes,
Jivka.
your actual name. Yes, Matji. So let's say the full sentence together one time. I'm gonna skip the blank. So Ja Hojivka dos.
Opunvkv dos.
Matji. So let's look at the clean version. There we go. Ja Hojivka, my name. And I want to say one of the Mahayas, I think one of the Mahayalgi are going to go over possessives for a little bit. So in this case, right, this Ja is my, and then Hojivka's name. So literally it's Eli. My name is, right? So Magayo Jimiyu Magaks. Ja Hojivka.
Jahujivkas,
I only heard 2 people answer me.
Jahojivka.
Jahojivka.
Maji, dos.
Jahojivka dos.
dos,
Maji, Ja Hojivka dos.
Jahujivka dos,
Jahojivka dos.
Jahojivka dos. Maji. Okay, and this is another one you had. I believe this was Mahaya Carolyn. I had access to their 2 things today, so I was using them. Okay, before I say it, does anybody remember what this one means?
Me too. I'm without problems.
Maji.
Mayo. Mayo.
Anil. Also spelled sometimes like this with the U. Anil. So anil is stongezos. So anil means what?
Me too.
Me too. Me too. And then estrongezos is one big piece. It's a verb all by itself. And it is without problems or to be fine. We often say, like, I am fine is kind of how we tend to say it in English, because it kind of sounds weird to say, me too, I'm without problems. In English, it just doesn't sound quite the same. So let's look at our pieces. I have no problems. Me too. We have a subject and we have a verb. Okay, so there we go. Okay, we're gonna do the 3 separate words. So starting with just the first word, just this one. Magayo Jimiyu Magaks. Anil.
Anil,
Anil.
Anil,
Gee. Next one. Stone gaze.
Stongaze,
Stone gaze.
Stongaze,
Os.
Os,
Os.
Os.
Nice. All together. Anil. Stone gaze. Os.
New.
Stongaze, Os.
Machi. Okay, so I kind of touched on it and mentioned it, but I want to do it one more time because this is so important. The important part to remember. The verb is always last in Mvskoke. And then the only thing you have to have for a complete sentence in Mvskoke is a verb. Because we can put so much information into our verbs, right? We have, say, hombida, and that's to eat, right? Hombida, to eat.
Eat.
I can put who is eating. So now I have home base. This is who is eating. I'm eating. Home base. I can describe where to an extent. Oh, home base. I'm eating on something. Oh, home base. I can explain the time period. I can change the time, and now it's oh, home base. Now I did it in the past. I can add whether I didn't eat in the past. So we can do so much into a verb that we only need a verb to explain ourselves in Mvskoke. I can tell you everything you need to know, possibly in just a verb. So that's why those are the most important pieces of Mvskoke language. The verb, and it's always last. One thing I didn't talk about today too much, I tried to avoid a lot of dos today. If you notice, a lot of my sentences didn't have dos. So dos is a very useful and common verb. It means is, right? Is. It comes from the verb is omida. If you want to look it up in the dictionary and kind of see anything else, it's omida is the verb. It means to be, right? And it's often used as a helping verb. It's often paired with other things for a full sentence. So in English, is also a helping verb. I can say, I run, but when I want to say, like, I'm doing it now, I say, I am running. Am is from is. She is running. So we use it as a helping verb in English as well. In Mvskoke, dos is used as a helping verb. It is very common to hear dos as our sentence enders in Mvskoke. So dos specifically, it's a verb, so you'll have two verbs, right? Hombe, I am eating. Hombe, dos. Hombe, dos. Dos will be the very last verb in any sentence. I just put very verb. Very last verb. I said verby. Man, there we go. It'll be the very last verb in any sentence it is in. And it'll always be the last one. So, I am eating. Hombe dos. She is running. Liki dos. So, if dos is going to be there, it's going to be the last one. But I didn't want to go too far into dos because then you see so many sentence endings, and I'm not going into sentence endings yet. So, besides that, any questions so far before I cover where other items and sentences might go? So I'm going to cover some more, but any questions until then? I got a mosh from Pasha. Indirect objects, but G, yes, indirect objects. And if I have time at the end, I can do a little like sneak peek on indirect objects, because they're complicated sometimes, but much. Okay. Okay, other parts to a sentence. So we talked about subject, a verb, and an object, which are going to be your first building blocks. You need those. But there's other parts of a sentence that you might want to know where they go in when you're talking. So let's do a quick little overview of what those might be. Okay. So Sahamgat is adjectives. Adjectives. So for a quick, lesson or reminder for anybody who may need it, what is an adjective? An adjective is something that describes a noun. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, concept. So they describe the color, the shape, the size, stuff like that are all adjectives. The black cat, the brown dog, the big squirrel, the long snake. Those are adjectives. They're describing the thing, right? So where does it go? Where does it go? If you're just stating an adjective, you're just stating what they are, it goes at the end. So the deer is big, right? I'm just stating that the deer is big. I'm not doing anything else. It's just a statement, right? Just the deer is big. So big is at the end here. Idro sakis. Idro sakis. Now, I put an asterisk here, right? My little star, because it's an adjective, but I thought verbs had to be in a sentence and the verbs have to be last. Well, this is because Mvskoke is a cool language and adjectives are actually a type of verb in the language. They're what we call dative verbs. So they're verbs that describe a state. Your state being like the color of your hair is a state. How big you are is a state. Stuff like that. So they're a type of verb in Muskogee. This is why they can go last. And so I wanted to clarify that because I just told you verbs have to be in a sentence. So you might be like, well, where's the verb? It's because adjectives are a verb. Okay. Now, next one. If the adjective is describing something that's a part of a larger sentence, then it has to go after the thing it describes. So in this case, a big deer eats grass. A big deer eats grass. So the big goes after the deer. So Idjo flocki bahin hombis. A big deer eats grass. Idjo flocki bahin hombis. Idjo flocki bahin hombis. A big deer eats grass. So that's different than saying just the deer is big. The cat is white. The light is bright, right? If I'm using it for a bigger sentence, the bright light is blinding me. The big cat is crushing me, right? That's going to be the bigger descriptions. So a big deer eats grass. And for anybody else who also likes grammar, notice I used a big deer here, and we have flocket. So that's another sneak peek into when I go into T's and N's and why those matter. So Idjo flocket bahin hombis. A big deer eats grass. What G? Okay, so let's say these two sentences together. Let's say the pieces. So I'm going to get rid of all my little drawings. That way you can see which one I'm talking about. So let's start with deer. Magayo jimiyu magats. Idjo.
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 G. Hadam. Idjo.
Idjo.
Idjo. Idjo.
G. Flockgeese.
Flockies.
Taki.
Now, I know you've been taught this before, but I think Mahaya Becky, probably Mahaya Philip, we don't ignore any sounds. So the two Ks are both pronounced flock geese. So flock geese.
Geese.
Flockies.
Taki.
Gee. Okay, all together. Idjo flock geese.
Idjo
Idjo
flockies.
flockies.
What G? Okay, for this one, let's do the big deer eats grass. So our first word, once again, is Idjo.
Idjo
Idjo.
G. Let's do this one. Flocket.
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 Hadam. Flocket.
Flocket.
Kid.
Machi, now we're doing grass. Bahin.
Bahin.
Buzzing.
Bahin.
Buzzing.
And it is eating or eats. Hombis.
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 Machi. Okay, so all together, we're gonna do 2 and 2. So Idjo flocket.
Idjo. Flocket.
Machi. Hadam. Idjo flocket.
Idjo.
Idjo flocket.
Bahin hombis.
Bahin hombis.
Bahin hombis.
Hombis.
Machi, all together. Idjo flocket. Bahin.
Taki. Taki. Hombis.
Idjo.
Idjo flocket. Bahin hombis.
What G? What G? Okay. Any questions on adjectives and where they go before I move on to the next subject?
One question. If it were tall grass, that would not receive a T. The
It would use,
No, it's an
it would use an N. Munchy. Okay. Next one. So locations. So locations, where did they go? This is going to be like, talking about a place something is done or where we're going. So if you're talking about going to a location or coming from a location, stuff like that, you're going to put it before the verb. So I go to town. Town is Dalofa. So Dalofan ayes. Dalofan ayes. And it's going to take that N. It's going to take that N. Dalofan ayes. Dalofan ayes. So let's do that. Magayo, Jimmy Magas, Dalofan.
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 Machi Hadam, Dalofan.
Dalofan.
Machi Ayes,
Ayes.
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 Machi.
Yes.
All the other Dalofan Ayes.
Dalofan. Ayes.
Machi. If you're talking about a place where something is happening, you place it before the object. So, for example, I cooked meat at church. So the place is church, Migusapka Jugun. Then the object, right? Our object is meat in this case. A Bishwan, and then our verb, Noflejeyungs. And it has the I form, right? So this I, the subject, is a part of the verb. So Migusapka Jugun, a Bishwan, Noflejeyungs. So basically, you're setting the scene. That's what you're kind of doing. You set the scene with your location first, and then you describe what happened at that location. So I set the scene. Migusapka Jugon, church. Abishwa no jams. Cook meat. I cook. So piece by piece, magayo, jemio magaks. Migusapka. And for anybody who needs that broken up, ready?
Joking.
You say me,
Me.
gu,
Me.
Gu.
Who.
sa,
Sop.
Sa.
Ga.
gu,
Joking.
go.
Me. Ko. Ka.
But gee, our pieces are gonna be me, gu, sa, ga, ju, gon. So, hadam, me gu sapka.
Migo sapka.
But gee, jugon.
Jugon.
Joking.
But gee, together, me gu sapka jugon.
Migo sapka. Jogon.
But gee, our next word is meat. Abishwa.
Abishwa.
Abiswa.
Nice. And I'm gonna add the end this time. I just said the word meat. Abishwan.
No.
Abiswan.
Hadam.
The
Abishwan.
best one.
Abiswan.
But gee, and then our last one, I cooked yesterday or a few weeks ago or a year ago. I cooked. No flay jayunks.
No
No
flay
Jayong.
But gee, our piece is gonna be no flay jayunks. So hadam, no flay jayunks.
No Jayong.
But gee, okay, let's do pieces. Let's do the church part and then the cooking meat. So migo sapka jugon,
Migo
Sapka. Jogon.
abishwan no flay jayunks.
The best one. No pleasure.
But gee, all together, migo sapka jugon, abishwa no flay jayunks.
Migo
Sapka
Sapka.
The best one.
No Jayungs.
No pleasure.
No flay jinx.
Man, gee. What gee, everybody? Okay, let me look at the chat real quick. Okay.
Mahaya, Kalani Dogas, I missed something here because I was writing and trying to listen at the same time, and that doesn't often work. So anyway, you're putting that in on the end of like Jogon, and then Biswan, you're putting that in on the end of it. And why?
So in this case, kind of use this. For the location, this N shows that it's a location that it's taken. So we add that N. For this
Okay.
for this one,
Uh-huh.
if it wasn't obvious, this N shows that it's the object. Now, that's why with this one, you heard me say probably a few times when I was having you guys repeat, you can actually take off the N if you need, because obviously the meat is not cooking. I am not meat and I am not like cooking. You know what I mean? So obviously it is meat that I am cooking. So this N shows that it's not doing the action. Now, I usually put it though whenever I'm teaching so that you get into the habit of having it in there just in case. So this N specifically can be dropped, but not all N. That's kind of why. That make enough sense?
Okay, it's just that those of us that are fluent speakers from the beginning, I just never thought of it like that. The grammar part of it. And so hearing you explain it, I understand it, but like Lillian Thomas, we were talking one day, and she said, I just thought we were just saying the sentences just like we had heard it, and we kind of laughed, but we were said we didn't grow up knowing grammar, and in the time that we talked, we just knew that you say it like this, and anyway, okay, thank you.
Yes, of course, and that's very common when you're a native speaker. This is something that you often do hear people mention, is that they don't know the grammar behind it. Oh, I'm getting an echo. One second. There we go. Okay. But this is something that they often mention is, they don't know the grammar behind it, and that's okay. How many English speakers don't know the grammar behind what they're saying? They just speak it. So it's very normal. If it's your first language, you've never had to think about these rules. You just know these rules in your head. And so that's kind of why I like teaching these, because a lot of times they're forgotten to be taught because they forget, like they don't know, they're not aware of the rules, versus I really like the rules. So that's why I come in with doing all of it. Okay, let's go into adverbs real quick. Okay, adverb. So what is an adverb? That's the thing that describes a verb. I'm taking you back to those scary high school classes where you had to learn all that stuff and you don't want to remember anymore. So adverb, it describes a verb. What that means is it describes how it is done or how much. So run quickly, laugh happily, cry sadly, eat quickly. Those are adverbs. They're describing how the action is done. So if he's not just running, he's running quickly. She's not just crying, she's crying sadly. So that's what the adverb is. So where does it go? So the adverb will go before the verb that it is describing in every case. So I have two sentences here, so you can kind of see the how it is done and the how much done options, the two examples. So the first one, we're doing a how the verb is done, so slowly. The deer eats slowly. So, Ejo halalakin hombes. Ejo halalakin hombes, right? We have deer, our subject. We have a verb. And then it's going to be our adverb. That's right here. Halalakin. So it's right before our verb. You'll also notice that this ending is always going to be present. And this E is going to be that long E. So it's Ejo halalakin hombes. Okay, so magayo, Jimiyu magaks. Ejo.
Ejo.
Angel.
Ejo.
G. Excuse me. Ejo. Okay. Halalakin.
Halalakin.
Lalaking.
Gee, let's do those pieces, right? Because that's a lot of L's in there. So I say, you say, ha,
Ha.
Uh,
La.
La. La.
That.
gin.
Ging.
Gee, so hadam, halalakin.
Halalakin.
Lalaking.
Gee, and that's a that's a describing adverb. Like how it sounds slow. Halalakin. I like it a lot. It's awesome. So hadam, halalakin.
Halalakin.
Lalaking.
Gee, and then E is hombes.
Hombes.
Hombis.
Hombis.
So all together, Ejo halalakin hombis.
Ejo.
Ejo halalakin
Hombis.
hombis.
Biz.
Much. Okay. Now let's do an example with the how much. So in this case, it's a lot. The girl ate. How much did she eat? A lot, right? So the girl ate a lot. We have hoktuji is the girl, the subject. We have next our adverb. Sugin, a lot, adverb. And then we have our, oh, I almost wrote subject instead of verb. Verb, which is ate, verb. So girl, a lot, ate. So piece by piece, magayo, jimeyo, magaks, hoktuji.
Hoktuji.
G, and always remember, I heard it, but always remember, every sound counts. So it's hoktuji. So hoktuji.
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 G, hadam, hoktuji.
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 G, sorgi.
Hoktuji.
Sogi.
Oh, I heard something. I
Sorgi.
two sentences or
Sorgi.
things. Yeah, sorgi.
Volgin.
G, you gotta put that feeling into it. I know Mvhayv Becky used to say that a lot, right? You gotta put that feeling into it. When we say halalakin, if you go halalakin, it doesn't feel slow anymore. Halalakin feels slow. So Ejo halalakin hombis. And so sugi, we're trying to say a lot. You can't go, you could, it doesn't sound right to say like, oh, hoktuji sugi hombis. It's like, no, hoktuji sugi hombis. So sugi.
Mm.
Sugi. Okay, and then last but not least, she ate hombugs.
Hombugs.
Humbugs.
Hombugs.
Humbugs.
Hombugs.
The fun sound, hombugs.
Humbug.
Okay, let's put those pieces together. Hoktoji, sugin, hombugs.
Hoktuji.
Much. Okay, any questions on adverbs before I move on? I think I have one more concept type before we have time for questions or going over anything that anybody else had questions on. So anything on adverbs real quick.
Oboga ojes.
Mhm.
Holalatki. It also looks like one of those dative verbs or adjectives. Is it?
Yes, and that's because all of our yeah, technically all of our adverbs are going to come from our adjectives. So halalatki without the n on there, just halalatki means to be slow. So to be slow. Sulgi without the n means to, I wrote that too far away. To be a lot. To be many. So they come from those adjectives. Okay, move on to the next piece and numbers. Okay, so I wanted to cover where numbers go because this is something we have a lot and you learn your numbers, but a lot of times people don't know where they actually go in the sentence. So if I look at it, try to get my pen out. Okay, there we go. So where do they go? When it's used in a sentence, numbers will go after the thing they're counting. So in this case, my sentence is, I see 2 cats. So they're counting the cats. There's not 2 of me. They're counting the cats. So I see 2 cats. So we have our subject, which is going to be part of our verb, right? Because it's I. Our number and our object. So it becomes right after the thing. So our object, and then our number, this comes after our object, and then our verb. So it's gonna be bozi, hokolin, jazz. So magayo, jimayo magaks, bozin.
Bozin.
I add
Ozzy.
bozin. And then hokolin,
Okolin.
he jazz.
Ages.
Hadam, bozi,
Dozy.
hokolin.
Poland.
PJs.
PJs.
Okay, all together. Bozy, Pokolin, PJs.
Bozy.
Bozy, Pokolin, PJs.
Gee. If you are describing the thing that you are also counting, the number is the last one. It's at the end. So I don't just see 2 cats. I see 2 black cats. So the number is going to be the last one in your list of descriptions, right? Because black has to go after cat, but 2 has to go after cat. 2 is the last one. So it's bozy, lusty, Pokolin, PJs. And then any of these middle adjectives will take no endings, no N, no T, nothing like that. They're just the adjective. So bozy, lusty, Pokolin, PJs. Cats, black, 2, I see. So magayo, Jimmy magaks, bozy, lusty,
Lusty.
Pokolin,
Pokolin.
PJs.
PJs.
Aji hadam, bozy,
Bozy.
lusty, Pokolin,
Pokolin.
PJs.
PJs.
Aji, so let's do 2 and 2. Bozy, lusty,
Bozy.
Lusty.
Aji, Pokolin, PJs.
Pokolin.
Aji. Now all together. Bozy, lusty, Pokolin, PJs.
Bozy.
Lusty, Pokolin, PJs.
Much. Okay, I'm gonna open in the chat so I can see if there's any questions. Okay, learning. I wish I could. This little thing is not very big on the screen. Let's see. Yes, Mvskoke has tone. Jane brought that up. Mvskoke has tone, and if you listen, you can really hear it. So, for example, I want to give this example because Mahaya Gracine gave it last week. If you need to pass through, you can. Okay, cool. You can sit if you want. She taught you guys how to say that you are learning, right? And she said, Keithless. Now listen to how I'm saying it. Keithless.
Keithless.
That tone is high the whole time. Keithless.
Keithless.
Keithlida means to know and to learn, depending on how you tone it. So Keithless is I am learning. The exact same spelling, but with a falling tone means I know. Like I've already learned it. I know. Keithless. And that's really important. So tone matters a lot. And whenever I teach something where it's really pertinent, I will try to mention it. A lot of native speakers, they don't notice the tones, but they'll notice the difference. And so I did notice she taught this and I wanted to mention that. So learn, right? I am learning Mvskoke is going to be Keithless. So magayo, Jimmy you magas, Keithless.
Keithless.
I know it's gonna be Keithless. But G. And there's a few different verbs where that's gonna matter. So to learn and to know, Keithlida is one of those. So yes, Mvskoke does have tone, but not every word has tone to that extent, or at least where it makes that big of a difference. Let's see, stated verbs work hard. Yes, they do work very hard. How would I make it'll plural? Okay, so that's a good one. Plural, let me do that real quick. Because honestly, in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. I'm at the question section, so now I have more space to write. Okay, so plural. Plural is fun. I'm okay with going a few minutes over. So if you need to leave, you can. Plural for living human things. So humans. We're gonna add one of two different endings, or a few different endings. you'll either have algae, doggy, and uggy. And that depends on the word. So got jelgi, panther clan. So algae is a group of people, a group of things. So panther clan. For doggy, honunwa is man. Honundagi is men, many men. Uggy would be, for example, hopti. Hopti is woman. Hopdagi is women, many women. So for human things, we take these three endings, doggy, uggy, uggy. For non-humans, if they're not a human, they generally will not take an ending unless there's a reason. So edo is a tree. If you do add uggy, it sounds like you're saying forest, specifically, edoalgi, forest. If you're trying to just say like a bunch of sticks, the verb will do all the work of showing how many. You would just say edo. Or if you see a bunch of cows, like wagahijes, the verb's going to change to show how many cows you see. So wagahijes, wagahijages. I see a cow, I see many cows. So non-humans generally aren't going to change a form. You have to get it through your other pieces. Okay, the only adjective and adverb closest to the verb is the end. Yes, correct. Can we signify it in writing? You can signify it if you want to do that. If you're talking about the e sound, yeah, you can do this. If you mean the kifles and the kifles, in academic papers, you'll see, I'm trying to remember what they use. There's a certain sign they use. I think it's this one for the falling tone. But we don't write that way. But that's a way in like learning or academic items, they will show that sometimes if they're trying to be specific and show you. We'll have some tones that do things like that. Let's see, looking for it. Okay, we'll have a stressed tone with hijaz list. Yes, exactly. Hijaz, that's important for whether you see it versus you're looking at it. Yes. Okay, dol algi, herd. I don't know the word for herd. Do you know the word for herd? Like herd of cows? Just walk. Yeah, I think you just use the verb to explain. The one you put, this little hook, that shows nasal. So I'm not saying kifles, I'm saying kifles. So that's used for nasal whenever it's in an academic item or a learning item. That's why you'll see some people will fight a lot about this word, he's J versus J. It's because way back when they didn't have, and we still don't really have a way to show nasal. This is the same thing as this, but with the nasal on it. So a lot of times people will fight about how to spell it, but at the end of the day, they're trying to say the same thing. He's J and he's J, because that nasal also has a meaning. So now I know we went through a lot at the end just because of questions. Was there anything related to the lesson today? Anybody has a final question before I let y'all go? Do my countdown. Yeah. So a wiga is just, right? That's just tamed animal, a wiga. And sulgi just means a lot. That comes from that sulgin we did earlier, right? I ate a lot sulgin homies. So you would just say a lot of cows, right? Walga sulgin PJs. I just see a lot of cows. Oh, someone raised their hand. Got a question?
Hi, this is my first time taking this this course, my first time coming to these meetings, and someone mentioned that there's a Google Drive, and
Yes.
I just wanted to know how to access that.
So I'm gonna put it in the chat here. So first off, let's share. This is our website. This has a lot of items to learn. So especially if you're new, if you don't know, say the alphabet and the pronunciations. It has a whole section on that. It has a whole lot. Excuse me. So that's got stuff for you. It also has a link to our YouTube. So our YouTube, and you can either take that or, you know, look us up on YouTube. It's Mvskoke Language, spelled the same way. Mvskoke Language. On all of our classes, so these classes are recorded and then put on YouTube. In the description is always a link to the Google Drive, and it'll have the items that they use for class. And whenever there's like, say they didn't have this most recent one, it's because we have to get them to the person that puts them on the drive, and so if they're out that day, we have to wait a day. But she's generally pretty on top of it. So I know like this one probably won't be there till probably next week, just because it's Friday. But it has a lot of stuff already on it. And then for a lot, not all, but a lot of the concepts I talked about today, I already did a grammar kind of class last year. And so there are some worksheets and things I think related to these specific concepts on there. So you can just kind of explore on the Google Drive and see what you get. But gee, okay. And then with that, if there's nothing else.
Mado Mahaya.
Mado!
Mado Mahaya.
Oh, Mahaya.
Mado!
Wonderful.
No, you got this.
Mado, you got this. Have a good
Hagam
week.
Vidyadi, so
Oh, real quick, just to warn you guys, we do not have class on Tuesday because it is Muskogee Nation Sovereignty Day. So
Oh,
it's our Independence Day, basically. So we don't have any, none of the offices are open. We won't have class. So we'll see y'all on Thursday. See y'all on Thursday. And then I think we're going to try to remember to post some things for final. I'm just sitting and keep waiting. But see y'all next week.
Mado.
Mado.